Thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Smith with Coldwell Banker Select, Smith Team Luxury Real Estate, and I'm here in Sedona, Arizona with my good friend and coach, Dave LaRue. We have been here enjoying some great weather, the vortices, and a lot of good times. And I wanted to bring Dave in for an interview because I consider him a mentor and a huge impact on my life. I've known him, I don't know how many years have we known each other?
20.
Dave was a coach of mine actively for probably 16, 17, maybe 18 years. Very instrumental in the success in our business, and I think can bring a lot of value to just a conversation. Dave travels quite a bit, owns many businesses. I don't know if you actually know how many you own now, but
A few.
And so I sent him some questions that I wanted to ask him that I thought would be valuable to everyone, really. Dave is a great motivator, a really good Midwestern guy, so he has a lot of love in his heart. And Amy and I were lucky enough to get married by him in Cancun. Really a special moment for me, and I was really touched that he could be there, and I was really happy that he could make it. But anyway.
Yeah, it was a big price I charged him too, $5.
When I see people that are successful like you, Dave, I always ask myself, what motivates them? I don't know if you use any tricks to stay motivated. I mean, I know that you have a lot of things going on, but is there any suggestions that you have that are suggestions that you could give me or anyone else really that's watching this?
Well, it's pretty easy for me. I understand what my genius is or my innate ability. I love leading teams. I love helping other entrepreneurs reach their level of success and bringing them to a new level, right? And so my belief is that, and it's a core belief of mine, that if we're lucky enough and we take the time to work on ourselves enough to discover what our innate ability is, that I just think that the universe, God, call it what you'd like, we need to use that, and we should, if we know it, we should be playing in it. If we know it, so I know what mine is, I love doing it, so I love what I do, and I do what I love. And so for me, it's just really simple to be motivated in that sense, right? So, I mean, there's also tricks I use to stay happy and to do the different things, but we can talk about that as we go forward.
So Dave also has a coaching program now called the Comma Club, which is, as far as I understand, very successful. One of my family members was in his most recent seminar, and I'm sure got a lot out of it. But Dave is very well read. I always, whenever I see him, I always ask him what he's reading now, because I think there's always interesting insights there, things that I don't know about, or things I should know about, or maybe it's just something interesting. And so, I'm wondering right now. I know I saw some of the books you're reading, but
well, today in our society, with technology the way it is today, I can read a lot of books fast. So there's different apps that you can use. One is Blinkage, I think it is, and I can read. I try to read 3 to 5 books a week. And just to get, I'm not reading cover to cover. I'm listening to it for about a 20-minute session, and which is covering about 80% of the book, which is just really valuable for me. And so if I find a book that I really love, then I'll go buy the hardcover and I'll, study it that way. So my favorite books over time, the ones I've always gone back to when I was about 16 years old, I was lucky enough that somebody shared with me Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I studied that book, and I also have gone further back, and there's authors, Henkel, and there's Wallace D. Wattles are some of my favorite authors that go back into the 1800s. And so a lot of the success principles, a lot of what is being coached today, what I coach, is stuff and principles that have been around for a long time. In fact, probably arguably the most motivational great books is the Bible. If you just look at it, not from a Christianity standpoint, I'm not saying it for that reason, but just that there's lots of good things in there for, sorting out your values, etc. So.
And I've never asked you this, and I would always hope that I'd be the answer, but I know I'm not. You must have someone that you consider your idol? You know, like for me in golf, it would be Tiger Woods, and maybe some people would like that or not like it. But yeah, I've never asked you this question.
I got to spend like 3.5 hours one night with Tiger, and it was a fascinating evening. And it was shortly after his a lot of his issues started to happen. So, yeah, no. So I would say the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mentors, if you will, I go back. I have 5 that on any quarterly basis. I do a planner every quarter for myself. I have for 27 years. I haven't missed a quarter. And a lot of times people say, "You're such a lucky guy, Dave." And I go, "I've never met a lazy, lucky person." I have a game plan. I work it. I have. I'm very conscientious of who's hanging in my life with me. I'm aware of that, so we have good, consistent values, etc. But my favorite guys are like, I love Ronald Reagan. I love Milton Friedman, the economist. Reagan for his leadership, I love because he practiced what I love, is that he knew what he was great at, and that's what he spent his time in, and then he delegated the rest. Milton Friedman he's an unbelievable, if you haven't watched him, if you watch him with Phil Donahue, which, Phil Donahue is very liberal, and Milton Friedman was more of a libertarian. But he just handles himself so well, and he doesn't allow other people to impose their values. Like when I coach you, I'm not trying to impose my values onto you, right? I'm trying to have you discover what your values are, right, and not telling you need to live your life my way.
Right. So we're here too with Lindsey, Dave's wonderful fiance. So the next question's kind of loaded, and I wasn't really intending to put you on the spot here, but what's the next big thing for you, whether it's personal or business, or there's always something on your horizon, so I think it's interesting to hear this.
Well, one of the things that I was married for 30 years, and in 3 years it took for the divorce, so it was actually 33 years. I was lucky enough to have the courage finally to make that choice. My ex-wife and I are still friends. We have 3 beautiful children. We have 3 grandchildren. And so we're committed to that, with our family, which is healthy. So one of the things that Lindsey's brought into my world, and now our world, is that just a real harmony and real balance where we have great adult communication. We're not afraid to share what's on our mind. We're not afraid to call, play with each other, and and you know me. I'm not an easy guy sometimes. What's on my mind comes out, and I have a low filter, and I love adult conversation. I love to get it out on the table.
It's the first time you've ever called it low.
Yeah, that's true, right? Yeah. So yeah, and so it just brings a lot of joy and happiness, right? And so a lot of times people say, well, how do you stay happy? How do you wake up and you're happy? I go, well, you hang out with great people, right? And so that brings happiness, and you just make choices that bring happiness to you. And so Lindsey brings that to me, and there's not a game being played. We're just what you see is what you get, and it's really, really a lot of fun.
So would the consummating this marriage be top of your list then?
Yeah, that's one of the things we're really working hard on. We have businesses in almost 20 different countries now, and Lindsey's Canadian, and I'm United States, USA, and it's difficult to kind of sort that out. Lindsey on her own is very, very successful. It's been her and her sister had a real estate team and up in Toronto, and she's successful. So it's not just my success. We're dealing with both of ours and trying to blend that in a way that's we don't give too much to the governments.
Right. Dave has lots of ventures that are different things, not necessarily his main business, which was originally, I'll call it cogs, sprockets, and belts, but yeah. I don't know if maybe it's bigger than that, but which was Baldwin. But I know Dave went into some other things where, one, you started selling stuff abroad, yeah. Okay, and I thought you might have some insights as to, maybe specifically China or in general, because I know that business around the world is done so differently than it is here in the United States. Did you learn anything there that you'd like to share about doing business internationally?
Well, I think at last count I've been to 80 countries, give or take a few. And what I've always loved about business in other countries, like I have British partners, Chinese partners, Saudi partners, different deals and ventures. Colombia, South America, we're down there with our chemical company. And what I always loved about it, through commerce, we put aside political viewpoints, we put aside religious viewpoints, and we just get along and we understand. And I'm always, I'm just always so moved by how we just get along with everybody, even though the politicians may be, saying we don't get along and battling out. So first time I went to China was right before the British handed Hong Kong back to the Chinese. I think it was that happened like 91, and I think I went over there in 1989. And I probably have been there 30 times at least, probably more. And I don't necessarily do a lot of business over there. What I would say, well, we do now with our chemical company, but what I would say is why I went over there is I wanted to understand, and I think it's important for business people and people just in general to see what's going on the other side of the world. And so I went there just because a lot of our domestic manufacturers were making deals with the Chinese, and I just wanted to be in the know of what was going on, so I actually could cut better deals for ourselves and our companies, right? So, yeah.
And you touched on something with your chemical company, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the battling you have kind of over some of the stuff you were doing with some of the big players in the chemical world. And I know you've learned a lot in that, and I don't know if you're able to share that with us, but I think it's an interesting story. I know I've been fascinated by it when Dave's telling me what he's doing, who he's up against, and it's a David and Goliath thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and when we say chemical, and I usually have trained myself to say it's green friendly. Yeah, actually, our chemical is less toxic than coffee or orange juice. The people we're competing with, when they apply their chemical, they have to have everybody out of the greenhouses for at least 6 hours. They have to have masks on and all this stuff. We could go in and do ours with flip-flops and shorts. We don't. We have a protocol that we go through. But it's just really great to see how that's working. One of the frustrating parts was in dealing with the different governments, and you have to get agricultural approvals and the different things, and it really is it's a process, and it's not necessarily one that small businesses like us, where we don't have a lot of money sitting where we can just pay $150 million to get the process done, and we've had to do it, and we've fought extremely hard. It took us about 3 years in South America. We have it now, and we're getting all kinds of nice business and the rest of it, but we're competing against the big guys, right? And they're not always so nice. Yeah, and so that's without saying anything bad. We've great people, and it's taken way more money than we thought it would take, but we're making good progress finally. In fact, while we've been here on this trip, we had a huge contract that we just landed, and I think it's been working for 2 years.
Wow!
Right, so on that particular contract, so it's good.
Your daughter Jen, who I've known for a long time, recently had some medical challenges, a stroke, and some other things going on, and you had a hug challenge. Did you learn anything from this? I mean, this is what I saw on now maybe I'm wrong. I know that in the broader scheme of things, there's a lot of things that were going on at the time, but...
Well, it's just, you never, as a parent, and I got married when I was 20, and so we had children when we were 22 and a half, where I have a son, Rob, will be, I think, 40 this November. And then Jennifer is 36, and then my daughter, Michelle, is 32. And Jennifer, in September 4th, had a ruptured brain aneurysm, and we didn't know. Lindsey and I were up in our place in Toronto, and I got my ex-wife Cindy called, and we still didn't know. And I was flying off to we have a beauty products company, and we're buying a new building in Atlanta. So that's where I was headed. But all of a sudden, I had to change my direction, and I went to Denver. And Jennifer was at the Denver Medical Center, and we didn't realize how severe it was. So on the scale of bleed outs and strokes and ruptured aneurysms, she had a level 5 bleed out. And so Linz came out and got me all set up. We didn't know if she was going to live or die, but Lindsey said she's going to live, and we're going to just get you, she got got an apartment, and I lived out in Colorado for, I think, 10 weeks, or we did for 10 weeks, and Jennifer was in the hospital for 90 days. The amazing part about it, level 5 bleed out, multiple brain surgeries, multiple angiograms, which is a huge procedure, should be gone for 3 to 5 hours at any given one, and she had 15 or 16 of those. Meningitis set in. It was just one of those things, and we had so many times where, just ready to say goodbye, and she is survived. She is not paralyzed. She's in recovery. Long-term memory is great. Short-term memory is coming back better and better. Physically, it's just if you saw her, you wouldn't be able to tell this happened. So what were the lessons out of that? You just never know, man. You just never know when your time's going to come. And so there again, I always say, if you can figure out what you love doing, and get busy doing it, the money always will follow. And people never believe me on that, but the money will follow if you're in your genius. And just having a great appreciation for how fragile life is. I mean, it's, and it was our whole family. Cindy was out there, and Lindsey was, there, and my other daughter, Michelle, lived in the room, slept every single night with her. And it's just, we created a real healthy environment.
Yeah, and I'm sure she appreciated the support.
It's 1 in a million.
Yeah.
It's 1
well,
in a million.
she's tough, just like you.
Yeah.
Dave was a goalie back in the day, so he took a few headshots, I'm sure.
You can read. I wrote a story in my book, and I talk about the goalie days, right? So I've taken way more than one. Yeah.
And I know you have more than one book. Or you were working on, last time I saw you, I think you were working on one. You'd already had two published.
Yeah.
So what's your latest book?
Well, my favorite books so far is just Live to Tell Your Story. And I'm not like trying to be a big author. Partly I do it because in the speaking game or in the coaching game, people are always, hey, what's your material? And so it's good to bring credibility and confidence to people that you're out trying to coach and stuff. So I really did it more for my little world, my little audience, if you will. And but in there, I think that we have a lot of our intellectual property or concepts that we've created are all about creating stories. So I'm interested about how you and Amy are creating your story. Right? What's your story? What do you want your story to be? And so that's my favorite. So an extension of that in the next book is going to be just more of that and stories, but I'm bringing into it some of the client stories with their permission.
Okay.
And because over the years I've coached, I don't know, probably 20,000 hours in front of audiences, right? And so a lot, and it's not what I mainly do. It's not my main thing. I just do it because I love to do it, right? And which is a bit of people, by the way, when people tell you it's not about the money, grab your wallet. It's always about the money. And so I'm not saying that I don't want to, because if I'm willing to do it for nothing, then that's really what I'm worth. So if I'm creating value, I do receive money for it, and that's a great thing. And we create opportunities with that. But I forgot what I was going to say.
No, you were just talking about the book. Well, let me ask you this. So I promised you, well, I didn't tell you this, but I'd like you to give me a 30-second plug for the Comma Club. I just want people to know what it is, what it's about, and what it would do for them.
Well, I just so believe that if you're not working on yourself, you've heard me ask you this a million times. I go, Trevor, if you're not going to do it for yourself, who is going to do it for you? And you go, nobody. And I go, yeah, not your family. As much as Amy is there to support you and love you, you still have to wake up, or she still has to wake up and take those steps, right? And so what the Comma Club brings, it just brings in great people into entrepreneurs that really want to get to the next level. And whatever that next level means to them. Sometimes, they don't ever ask the question. So I'm really big at creating great questions, because without great questions, you can't have great thinking. Without great thinking, you can't have great actions. And so that's what it is, slowing your life down, working on yourself, not just business-wise, but on the personal side too. Because I've seen it where people's personal lives are great, but their business lives are terrible, or
vice versa.
They're in a challenge mode, or vice versa, right? And so that's really what I love to do, and just help people come in, play with each other, and discover what it is, discover their values, discover their purpose, discover their genius, and then just go out and live their life that way.
Okay. So I had to write this down because I knew that this is, usually I'm really good at winging it, and I can just, on the fly, I mean, I can tell you almost anything, but when it comes to Dave and just the emotion attached to the relationship that I have with him, I mean, he says it's your the five people you spend the most time with, right? They define you. And, Dave is definitely one of my five. So, there are a few other people that are mutual friends, but, I just wanted to tell you and document it that you have enriched my life in so many ways with ideas, with coaching, with experiences, happiness, there's a lot of value in it for me. It gets me choked up. I mean, I'm not an emotional person,
no,
you know that,
but you make me cry because I am. Yeah.
I just want you to know that you've had a huge impact on my life, and I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And I know Amy would thank you if she wasn't holding the camera. Yeah. I just want to thank you for the opportunities that you've created for us and the experiences, because it's world class.
Well, I really appreciate that, but I will tell you that you've paid for some of it too, right? And so, I mean, and I've always tried to give, you're an exception in my world of clients, because I always try to, I can't be best friends with all of them, and there's a handful of you guys that I am, and they're they're in my five, right? And so. And that, by the way, that was a Jim Rohn, one of my favorite motivational guys over the years. He died probably 5 years ago, but that was his. He goes, "You'll be the average of the five people you hang out with the most." And I always just love that. It's simple, but it's so true, right? So, so my point about it, you were smart enough, you had the courage, you had the discipline to come in and work on yourself. And what I've always told Trevor is that the byproducts of him doing that for himself is when he'll create value for your client base. So you're not a normal real estate person. You're in there helping the clients get to next level, helping them make the biggest, you're selling big homes, and it's a big investment for them, but you're making and giving them the confidence that you're going to do the right deal for them, and then all this other stuff that you've worked on in yourself is coming through, and you have created great relationships, and you have long-term clients, and you have clients that keep coming back for more, and that's a great thing, right? And so, and Trevor and Amy are building this great business, and I feel like I'm a little part of it just because I'm helping you, but
there's no doubt,
but
Dave.
It's you guys getting up, and you're making the choices to get up and have the discipline to get up and do the job. So that's awesome.
Thanks, brother. Thank you very much.